I want to talk to you today about wilderness. You know, those wilderness times that we all go through. They're difficult, aren't they? So often we're sure we've heard from God, and we're excited and we're expecting something to happen, but it doesn't. And we go through these times of wondering, did we hear from God? What's it all about? Where am I going? What am I doing? And they are very, very challenging times. Because of that, I'm not going to take you up to the threshing floor today, up there. I'm going to take you to a gorge, which is over here. And the gorge represents a darker place, and it's kind of enclosed, and to me it represents more of what it feels like to be in that wilderness time. Before we go there, there's a couple of guys in the Bible I just want to mention to you. One is Nehemiah. Nehemiah was in exile and serving in the palace there, and he faithfully served all the time that he was there, until eventually he was able to respond to the call of his people and return to Jerusalem and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But you know, Nehemiah had to be faithful in doing the service he was doing in the palace for all those years. There's another guy, Simeon. We find Simeon in Luke's Gospel. And Simeon was a man who had been promised that he would see the Messiah before he died. He's now an old man, and I'm guessing he's thinking it's never going to happen. But then one day he faithfully does his serving in the temple, and Jesus' parents bring Jesus to him, and he's able to bless Jesus, and he sees that prophetic word in his life come true. But let's also look at Moses. He's an interesting guy. Moses grew up in a palace. He was an adopted kid, grew up in a palace, but he knew he was an Israelite. And he saw the Israelites were badly dealt with. They were badly treated, and he tried to do something about it. And he failed miserably. And so at the age of 40, he has to walk away from the palace, walk away from his dreams, and give up on everything. And he goes off to Midian, to the wilderness, and there he gets married, has a family, and tends sheep. Moses spends the next 40 years wandering the wilderness with a bunch of sheep. That's a long way from the palace. That's truly giving up on any dreams that he might have had. Imagine how he felt. He must have sometimes sat there while the sheep were there feeding and thinking, how did I end up here? What made this happen? And of course he didn't know what God was doing. I do believe Moses had an amazing relationship with God, and that's revealed through the rest of the story. But you know, one day God met with Moses and released Moses to do what God wanted him to do, which was to release the people of Israel, not just give them justice, but to release them from the Egyptians, with the treasures of the Egyptians, and take them across to the promised land through the wilderness. Now, if you remember the story, the Israelites spent 40 years wandering around the wilderness. God had already prepared Moses. Moses knew the wilderness. He knew how to survive in the wilderness. He knew everything about the wilderness. Moses was well trained to do that job. But I bet it never crossed his mind when he was there that that's what he was being trained for. Do you see? We don't know what God is preparing us for. We just have to accept life's challenges, work through them and learn from them. And then one day in the future, God will bring them up and they will become a useful tool for what God is calling us to do. So I hope that's encouraged you. You know, if you're feeling inadequate, you're feeling that God isn't using you like he thought he would, he may well be just preparing you for when he does use you. And just bear with me on that. I really believe that's true. So push into God. Expect a burning bush. Hey? And yeah, thanks for joining me here in this gorge. And next time I see you, we may well be back up on the threshing floor, which is just above us here. And God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.